Eventually. But we have time. The main Hectare fleet is engaged in conflicts across 3 star systems. Their resources are stretched thin. Doran paced the small cabin, military strategies already forming in his mind. Earth has no defense against that kind of technology. We'd be annihilated. Not necessarily, Vrixa countered. The key contains weapons technology that could equalize the battlefield. If implemented correctly, Earth could stand against them. And who exactly would implement it? Our scientists would need decades just to understand alien principles. Vrixa's 4 eyes fixed on him with unsettling intensity. You would. Through me. Our oath bond allows for deeper connection than mere telepathy. I can transfer knowledge directly to your neural pathways. Doran laughed nervously. You want to download alien weapons tech into my brain? That sounds invasive. It is. And permanent. But it may be the only way to prepare your world for what is coming. That night, as snow began to fall outside their mountain hideaway, Doran made his decision. He sat cross-legged before Vrixa as she placed her hands on either side of his head. The sensation began as warmth, then intensified into something like electricity flowing through his synapses. Information cascaded through his consciousness, engineering principles beyond human development, quantum mechanics intertwined with biological systems, weapons that harness the fundamental forces of the universe. His mind stretched to accommodate knowledge never meant for human comprehension. When it was over, Doran collapsed, blood trickling from his nose and ears. But in his mind, blueprints and schematics unfurled with perfect clarity. He knew exactly what needed to be built. We need resources, he gasped when he could speak again. People I can trust. A facility. The Hectare will detect large power signatures, Vrixa warned. Then we start small. Underground. I know people from my military, days who operate off the grid, people who understand existential threats. What neither of them realized was that the knowledge transfer had done more than provide technical information. It had deepened their oath bond to unprecedented levels, linking their consciousness in ways that would transform them both. And far, above Earth's atmosphere, the first Hectare warship emerged from hyperspace, beginning its silent approach. The Nevada desert shimmered under the merciless summer sun. Below ground, in an abandoned missile silo purchased through shell companies with Doran's military pension, a different kind of weapons program had taken shape over the past year. Doran wiped sweat from his brow as he made final adjustments to the quantum transmitter, a device that looked deceptively simple but contained principles of physics not yet discovered by human science. Around him, a small team of hand-picked former military specialists worked on other components of what they called Project Luminary. Tell me again why we can't bring in the government, asked Maris, a former Navy cryptographer who had served under Doran in his final deployment. Because panic helps no one, Doran replied, repeating the cover story he and Vrixa had crafted. If the public learns about the Hectare before we have defenses in place, it's chaos. Besides, who'd believe us? The truth was more complicated. Vrixa had detected Hectare infiltration protocols already active in several world governments, advance, agents preparing for the invasion. They couldn't be certain who to trust. On the far side of the workshop, Vrixa stood perfectly still, interfacing with a modified supercomputer. Over the past year, she had gradually revealed herself to Doran's most trusted associates, each chosen for their skills and open-mindedness. Most had initially reacted with shock or disbelief, but the undeniable evidence of her alien nature and the looming threat she described had convinced them. It is time, Vrixa projected, her mental voice reaching all of them now through neural interfaces Doran had designed. The flagship has entered lunar orbit. They are scanning for my signature. Activate the shields, Doran ordered. The quantum barrier hummed to life around their facility, theoretically masking them from Hectare detection technology. It was their most advanced creation, but untested against actual Hectare sensors. They are broadcasting first contact protocols on all frequencies, Vrixa announced. Standard domination tactics. They present themselves as peaceful visitors while positioning weaponry. Can we intercept their communications? asked Leva, their communications specialist. Yes, but it would reveal our capabilities. Doran made a quick decision. Monitor only. Let's see how Earth's governments respond. They gathered around screens showing news broadcasts from around the world. The Hectare ship had been spotted, triggering emergency government meetings globally. Military forces were on high alert. They're following the playbook, Doran muttered. Just like Vrixa said they would. The Hectare vessel was massive, a crystalline structure 17 kilometers long, that refracted sunlight in dazzling patterns, beautiful and terrifying. Within hours, the ship had dispatched smaller craft toward major capital cities. World leaders were gathering for an unprecedented joint session at the United Nations to meet the alien delegation. We can't let that meeting happen, Doran said grimly. Once inside those chambers, the Hectare will deploy neural subjugators. Every world leader will become their puppet within minutes. We must reveal ourselves, Vrixa projected. I must speak for Earth. That's suicide, Maris objected. You're exactly who they're looking for. Not me physically, Vrixa explained. But through our bond, Doran can channel my authority as Royal Guardian. The Hectare follow certain protocols when confronted by established galactic powers. You want me to address the UN as... what? Your ambassador? As my bonded representative, with the Stellaris key as proof of authority. It was a desperate gamble. Doran would need to convince human authorities to trust him over the seemingly peaceful Hectare, then use Lumidian diplomatic protocols to force the Hectare into formal negotiation rather than conquest. As they prepared to leave for New York, Vrixa took Doran aside. There is something I have not told you, she projected privately. The oath bond between us. It has grown beyond traditional parameters. Your neural pathways have been partially rewritten by Lumidian patterns. Meaning what exactly? Meaning that if I were to die, my consciousness would not entirely cease. A portion would continue within you. And with it, all authority I possess. Doran stared at her. You've been preparing me as your successor? As my continuation. It was not intentional, but it may prove necessary. As their transport lifted off toward New York, Doran contemplated what it meant to carry not just alien knowledge, but potentially an alien consciousness within him. The implications were staggering, and, overhead, more Hectare ships emerged from hyperspace, taking position around Earth. The United Nations General Assembly had never seen such tension. Representatives from every nation sat in stunned silence as the Hectare delegation took the stage. Tall insectoid beings with carapaces that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their translator devices emitted perfectly modulated human speech. We come in peace and friendship, the lead delegate announced. The Hectare Dominion welcomes Earth into our collective of protected worlds. Protected. Doran recognized the euphemism from Vrixa's memories. Subjugated was the more honest term. He sat in the back of the chamber, the Stellaris key concealed, in a lead-lined case at his side. Vrixa remained hidden in their temporary base beneath the city, monitoring through their mental link. Their plan required perfect timing. The Hectare ambassador raised 4 multi-jointed limbs in a gesture of apparent benevolence. We offer technological advancement beyond your imagining, medical breakthroughs, an end to energy scarcity. World leaders nodded appreciatively, already falling under the subtle influence of the pheromones being released into the chamber's ventilation. System, the first stage of neural subjugation. Doran stood abruptly. The people of Earth respectfully decline your offer, Ambassador Krex. Gasps echoed through the assembly. How did this unknown man know the Hectare leader's name? The ambassador's compound eyes swiveled toward Doran. Who addresses the Dominion? Unbidden? I am Doran Kellis, oath-bonded representative of Vrixa Nim, Royal Guardian of the Lumidian Collective, bearer of the Stellaris Key. He spoke the formal words exactly as Vrixa had taught him, then opened the case, revealing the crystal. The effect was immediate. The Hectare delegation chittered in alarm, their posture becoming defensive. The Lumidian are extinct, the ambassador stated flatly. This is deception. The collective survives in its guardian, Doran countered, holding the key higher. It began to glow with internal light, responding to his touch, and to Vrixa's consciousness flowing through their link. By Article 7 of the Pan-Galactic Accords, I invoke the right of sovereign claim on behalf of the Lumidian people, with Earth as our sanctuary world. It was a legal maneuver from ancient space law, one that would force the Hectare to acknowledge Lumidian sovereignty over Earth or risk diplomatic sanctions from other galactic powers. The Hectare ambassadors' mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of angry muttering. The Accords require the physical presence of a true guardian to invoke such rights. Now, Vrixa projected into Doran's mind. Remove the neural inhibitor. Let me speak through you. Doran hesitated only briefly before removing the small device at the base of his skull that had been dampening their connection. Instantly, Vrixa's consciousness flooded his mind, their thoughts merging until he couldn't distinguish his voice from hers. When he spoke again, the voice that emerged carried harmonics impossible for human vocal cords to produce. I stand before you, Ambassador Krex, Vrixa Nim, last guardian of the Lumidian collective. The Hectare recoiled. They could sense the truth, Vrixa's essence projected through Doran's form. Across the city, in their hidden base, Vrixa's physical body convulsed as she poured more of her consciousness into their shared bond, strengthening the projection. Earth is now under Lumidian protection, Doran Vrixa declared. Your forces will withdraw immediately, or face the consequences of violating the Accords. The ambassador's carapace flushed dark red, a sign of rage. This changes nothing. The Dominion recognizes no claim without enforcement capacity. Then observe. With a gesture from Doran, the Stellaris key activated fully. Throughout Earth's orbit, dormant defense satellites, secretly deployed over the past year, came online. Weapons of Lumidian design targeted the Hectare fleet. On screens throughout the UN chamber, leaders watched as pinpoints of light struck 3 Hectare vessels, disabling them instantly. The next demonstration will not be so gentle, Doran Vrixa warned. Withdraw. It was a bluff. They had weaponized only a fraction of what would be needed to truly challenge the Hectare fleet. But it was enough to create doubt. After tense negotiations, the Hectare agreed to a temporary withdrawal pending review by their high command. It bought time, months, perhaps years. But victory came at terrible cost. When Doran returned to their base, he found Vrixa's body failing, her energy depleted by the prolonged consciousness transfer. It was always the end game, she projected weakly. My physical form was too damaged in the crash. The oath bond was my only chance for continuation. You're dying, Doran said, not as a question but in horrified realization. I am transforming. My consciousness will live on through you. The key responds to Lumidian neural patterns which you now share. You will be guardian after me. As Vrixa's physical form faded, the final transfer began. Doran screamed as decades of memories, not his own, cascaded through his mind. Thousands of years of Lumidian history, the fall of their homeworld, Vrixa's flight across the stars. When it was over, Doran Kellis was forever changed. In his mind, 2 consciousness existed in fragile harmony. His human identity and the essence of a royal guardian, and Earth's true preparation for galactic war had only just begun. 5 years passed. On the surface, Earth appeared unchanged. People went about their lives largely unaware of how close they had come to conquest. The Hectare withdrawal had been presented to the public as a diplomatic success, the details classified. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, a transformation was underway. In facilities around the world, Doran, now known to a select few as the human guardian, oversaw the implementation of Lumidian technology. Defense systems, medical advancements, sustainable energy sources, all deployed with careful consideration for humanity's readiness. The Stellaris key had become the cornerstone of a new scientific renaissance, its secrets revealed gradually to prevent cultural shock or weaponization. Doran himself had changed dramatically. His hair had turned silver, and faint luminescent patterns, reminiscent of Vrixa's, skin, traced veins beneath his skin when he was deep in concentration. His eyes, once dark brown, now held flecks of iridescent blue. At the heart of the former missile silo, now expanded into a sprawling underground complex, Doran sat in meditation. Around him, holographic displays monitored Earth's defensive grid and the vast emptiness of space beyond. The Hectare fleet has changed course, reported Admiral Linsari, the highest-ranking military officer assigned to what was now called the Guardian Initiative. They're moving toward the Centauri system. Not retreating, Doran replied, his voice carrying subtle harmonics. Regrouping, building allies. They'll be back with greater numbers. Inside his mind, Vrixa's consciousness stirred. Though they had learned to coexist harmoniously, there were moments when her presence became more pronounced, usually when discussing the Hectare. They cannot accept defeat, her thoughts echoed within him, especially not by a world they considered primitive. Then we must ensure Earth isn't primitive when they return, Doran answered aloud. The Admiral had grown accustomed to these apparent one-sided conversations. She knew of the dual consciousness Doran carried, one of many, secrets entrusted to the initiative's leadership. The Security Council has approved Phase 3 implementation, she said. Medical nanites will begin rolling out to cancer treatment centers next month. Doran nodded. They were introducing Lumidian, technology in carefully measured stages. First energy, then agriculture, now medicine. Defense capabilities remained largely classified, visible only in the satellites that now encircled Earth like silent sentinels. And the Genesis chambers? He asked. Construction complete. Awaiting final authorization. This was the most controversial aspect of their preparations. The Genesis chambers would allow for the rebirth of Lumidian citizens, not as invaders or replacements for humanity, but as allies against the coming storm. The genetic template stored within the Stellaris key could create a new generation of Lumidians, raised on Earth, loyal to both their ancestral heritage and their adopted home. It is time, Vrixa's consciousness urged. My people can be reborn. Our people, Doran corrected both aloud and in thought. After 5 years of shared existence, the line between Lumidian and human perspectives had blurred within him. He placed his hand on the scanning panel, authorizing the Genesis protocol. Deep within the facility, nutrient solutions began flowing into incubation chambers. The rebirth of the Lumidian had begun. Later that evening, Doran stood alone on the observation deck, watching the sunset paint the Nevada desert in shades of gold and crimson. So different from the azure skies of Lumidia Prime that lived in Vrixa's memories. You have exceeded all expectations, Vrixa's thoughts whispered within him. When I crashed on your farm, I hoped, only for temporary sanctuary. Instead, you got a stubborn farmer with a hero complex, Doran replied with a wry smile. I got a worthy successor, the first human guardian. Doran gazed at the stars beginning to appear overhead. Somewhere out there, the Hectare were planning their return, but Earth would be ready, not as an isolated planet but as the home of two civilizations united in common cause. They think they're coming back to conquer a primitive world, Doran said. Instead, they'll find the Lumidian reborn and humanity ascended. Through you, both our peoples have a future. In that moment, standing between earth and sky, Doran Kellis, once a simple farmer, now guardian of two civilizations, understood the true meaning of Vrixa's sacrifice. She had not merely used him as a vessel for survival. She had chosen him as worthy to lead a new chapter in the story of two species. The path ahead would not be easy. The Hectare would return in force. Other galactic powers would take notice of Earth's rapid advancement. Humanity itself would struggle with the implications of their new place in the cosmos. But for now, as the first stars appeared overhead, Doran allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. The dying alien he had rescued on a stormy night had given humanity the greatest gift imaginable, a future among the stars, and allies with whom to share it. In the chambers below, the first new Lumidian life took form, the beginning of a hybrid civilization that would one day be known across the galaxy not as conquerors or the conquered, but as the guardians of something precious and unique. A world where different species chose to stand together against the darkness. And it had all begun with a simple act of compassion on a Montana farm. The end.